We're almost at the 1 year anniversary of Battlefield 2042, and while the game's reception is actually a lot more positive now, it hasn't always been that way. So let's take a step back, more than a year's step back, and see what actually happened to Battlefield 2042. What caused the community to go from maximum levels of hype to minimum levels of hype to where we are now. In the early months of 2021, it felt like the Battlefield community was chasing a rumour. After Battlefield 5, speculation was abound on whether or not the franchise was about to return to a modern day setting, or perhaps go further into the future. For a while, the only thing the community had to go off were descriptions and snippets of a supposed internal trailer and drawings by a leaker that I will keep unnamed, until finally, we got a date. All of us Battlefield fans gathered on this day to see the reveal. The hype was arguably higher than any game before it, and expectations were even higher than that. And what we got, well, it was damn good.
What? Look at that city skyline. It's awesome. It's like Dawnbreaker 2.0. Yes, DICE. Yes. This is a reveal trailer. Well done. This is a reveal trailer for a Battlefield game.
This is classic Battlefield. This is... Oh, that's good.
The community received a 5-minute long trailer that seemed to answer all of their worries. There were fan favourite callbacks, a modern future setting and a bleak atmosphere. New mechanics, guns and maps were already being analysed and expectations skyrocketed again, and it wouldn't be too long until we got our first look at some gameplay. The Xbox Games Showcase arrived, and with it, our first look at the gameplay of 2042.
Oh, look at those graphics, man.
Oh, the count riot shields.
Oh.
Follow it.
Imagine if you went up to the rocket mid-air and it's just like E, get in.
Can you zipline onto it? Went E, yeah.
E to get in rocket.
Hype got even higher somehow, because the game seemed chaotic, fun, and honestly pretty polished for an early state that it was in. But that's not to say that there weren't any worries at all.
But, I mean, I gotta be honest, I've seen better graphics on Xbox 360, man. There's so many vehicles in this shot.
The biggest worry of all came mostly from the communities on Reddit that analysed the fact that classes seem to have been replaced. At this point, we knew that set characters would have differing gadgets, and you'd have to pick a specific person to receive that gadget. But at this point, people were giving this system the benefit of the doubt. But aside from this, there was one mode that was about to draw in a lot of hype. July 22nd rolled around and we got our first look at Battlefield Portal. Now this was a mode that had been rumoured for a little while now under the name Battlefield Hub, but for myself and many others, we brushed it off as something that was too out there to actually happen. However, the trailer arrived with some gameplay from the event and it looked very, very promising, giving access to players to create their own modes from 3 previous games. This added more fuel to the fire and more fans, new and old alike, joined the hype train. And it wasn't too long before we got our first-hand experience of what 2042 had to offer. But would that be a good thing? On September 28th, 2021, we didn't just get any announcement, we got the announcement, the call to action for the community. A flashy trailer showing off the map Orbital along with its Levolution was revealed with a date for the open beta, October 6th to the 9th, and all of us eagerly waited until that date rolled around. The day had finally arrived, and for me, well, I managed to get up early and get a game in before my college started. I was that excited. While I was away from the game after this, I scoured subreddits and YouTube videos to discover people's reactions and impressions on the game, and they seemed very, very positive, and I shared those once I hopped in again once I returned home. While there weren't too many guns in the beta itself and a limited amount of vehicles, this was to be expected because, well, it was a beta. The map seemed solid with the rocket launch, and the tornado was a massive highlight, especially when those two collided, and seeing that for the first time really was a special moment. However, this honeymoon period didn't last forever. as the community voiced its concerns as time went on. The lack of differentiation between specialists on each team led to a lot of ridicule online. This, combined with less than stellar netcode, lots of bugs, and a seemingly toned down level of destruction overall, quickly turned hype into concern. But this was just a beta, said the optimists in the community. Launch would be better, and in some ways, it really was, but in others, the changes wouldn't be as drastic as some had hoped. Early access launched on November the 12th to very, very mixed reactions.
The game is so bad, it is so laughably unfun and busted, I refuse to review it. I refuse to go through the process of gathering footage needed to actually produce a review.
Now just overall, if you've ever enjoyed a Battlefield game, you will probably like this one. It is the exact same Battlefield formula you're used to, with only a few minor changes overall. I'm right in the middle where I enjoy it, but recognize a lot of the problems it has.
Something about it, and I can't quite put my finger on it. The game just doesn't really feel like it has that Battlefield grit, that intensity, you know? I was surprised how it doesn't feel like Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 5, but in modern times. It just feels a little bit looser, a little bit lighter.
My group of friends and family were all enjoying ourselves playing the game, looking over the bugs unless they heavily impacted our game experience. We enjoyed the huge spectacle, progression of unlocking a new set of guns and vehicles, the massive scale of the maps, and even more. But for others, well, the game didn't meet their expectations in the slightest. The issues such as bugs, too open of a map design, lack of content, no change from specialist feedback, and the tone of the game really turned what felt like the entirety of the internet against Battlefield. The Portal mode wasn't enough to keep people on board either, as a lack of persistent servers and lack of incentive for players to experiment led to most not even checking it out. DICE weren't in a great spot with the community and had been backed against a wall. With so many bugs to fix, on February 1st, 2022, the first content drop, Season 1, was delayed. This put players who argued that there was a lack of content in an even worse position, as DICE had prioritised fixing the game and leaving content to a later date. However, in hindsight, this choice was really needed. Between February and Season 1, we got 4 updates to bring in hundreds upon hundreds of bug fixes, quality of life improvements like UI updates, features like a refreshed scoreboard and voice chat, and a whole load of balance changes. But by far, the biggest update in this time came a day before Season 1's launch, Update 1.0. Here we saw countless animation improvements, netcode improvements, new XP events and more. If you'd like to take a further look into these changes, this was actually the point at which I started making Battlefield content. So my video, It Is Illegal to Like This Game, covers this update in a far more detailed light. If you'd like to look into any of the updates made for this game in order, I have videos on pretty much every single one in the video essay playlist on the channel, so check them out if you'd like to. The point is, from here we were looking at a far more optimised and DLC ready Battlefield game, and then came Season 1. On June 9th, 2022, 1 year after the reveal of the game, we got 0 Hour, bringing 2 new weapons, a new vehicle, a new battle pass, a new map, and a new specialist. This update was a huge step forward for the game and really got the ball rolling. Exposure was easily the best map in the game, and while the BSV and stealth helos felt too powerful, it was nice to have some new tools to play around with. Some found the content to be underwhelming, but for me it was enough, and I'll always be grateful to Season 1 for pushing me further in content creation. Following this, we got Update 1.1 and 1.2, bringing further XP events, balance changes, new animations and looks for specialists, and the biggest change of all, our first rework. The map Kaleidoscope, set in Korea, was revamped completely, with new cover, routes around the map, and reworked objectives. It felt like a whole new map, and the style and tone changes of the specialists really made the experience feel a lot more cohesive. Overall, these updates were solid ones and were a step in the right direction for the game and its community. At the end of August, we got to jump into the game's second season, Master of Arms. This was another big step up for 2042, more so than Season 1, as here we got another vehicle, 3 new weapons along with 2 Vault weapons, and 5 new Portal weapons, as well as a new map, gadget, specialist, and battle pass. Stranded was another banger, while the weapons felt a lot more balanced this time around. With a bigger step taken towards the lore in this season, the world of 2042 was beginning to feel a lot more tied together. not to mention the countless fixes, improvements and changes in this update like all the others brought. Things are really starting to kick into gear now as DICE lay out their plans for the future, but we'll get into that later. For now, we can delve into the next few updates as we're getting closer and closer to where we are now. Update 2.1 brought with it another reworked map, being Renewal. This one again drastically improved the map layout and added so much cover into it, along with 3 new Vault weapons and the Polaris Razor, a quick little buggy to get around the map in. The improvements here were mostly brought into the game through Renewal 2.0's introduction because it really felt like a new map, much like Kaleidoscope did. By this point, conversations around the game's current state have begun to shift more towards excitement and positivity, instead of lamenting about the game's bugs and content, and this was only furthered by the announcement of the game's first event. On this day, the Liquidator event arrived, adding smaller scale infantry combat in a limited time mode, along with a load of timed cosmetics for people to buy and use. I for one saw at least half of the team in each match wearing a skin from this event, which does show interest in it. Despite its quickly resolved tracking issues upon launch, this event was a breath of fresh air and encouraged team play for those who are missing it in the bigger game modes. Furthermore, balance changes to Vault weapons along with a few others made the game feel a little fairer when in one-on-one situations. And here we are, today. We just got the Orbital rework, we just got persistent servers for Portal, which is a massive game changer, and more Vault weapons. And to be honest, there hasn't been much, if any, negativity around this update. I haven't seen anyone talk about how disappointed they are with Orbital 2.0. It seems like everyone loves this new rework, and it seems like the game is really going in a strong direction now. The game has come a long way, nobody can deny that. So long of a way in fact that the release date of the game is almost unrecognisable, from the UI to the particle effects to the maps and general gameplay. Battlefield 2042 is now viewed in a far more positive light, and there are still many plans for its future. To lift some of the big ones, DICE have plans for a specialist rework, a weapon rework, LMGs in particular here, more map reworks, and many more seasons to come. Despite its launch issues, I believe 2042 really has a solid base to it now, and I also believe that we'll be seeing every map reworked hopefully at some point, and I can only hope that we get to see Season 5 and beyond. So thank you for coming on this short little journey with me throughout Battlefield 2042's history, from before its reveal to now. We've glossed over a few things such as Hazard Zone that aren't too important, but we've covered mostly everything, and most importantly, we've covered the big updates that have changed the game for the better. So once again, thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again in the future. That my rockets don't even render in when it gets to him.
Friendly's targeting Alpha 1.
I bet I got him!